Every NFL player enters the season with a certain set of expectations that have been placed on them by their team, the media, and of course, the fans. Expectations are usually highest for the star players, and while many of them meet or even exceed them, there are always a handful of superstars who fall well short of their expectations and totally disappoint everyone. So today, we're going to take a look at 10 NFL stars that we expect to suck in 2020. Number 10, Melvin Gordon. The Los Angeles Chargers were wise to let Melvin Gordon walk in free agency. He simply didn't play up to his usual standards in 2019, having missed the first 4 games due to a contract holdout. That didn't stop the Denver Broncos from throwing $16 million over 2 years at Gordon in free agency, though. The signing was especially curious because they already have a 2-time 1,000-yard back in Philip Lindsay. Didn't John Elway learn anything from the Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and Todd Gurley contracts? You shouldn't overvalue running backs these days. Gordon may be a 2-time Pro Bowler, but he's only surpassed the 1,000-yard mark once in his first 5 seasons. He's only played in all 16 games once, and he also just has 1 season which he's averaged over 4 yards per carry. And this was on an average high-powered Chargers offense which had Phillip Rivers' passing attack to prevent teams from stacking the Bucs to stop the run. The Broncos may also be building a dangerous aerial attack of their own, but they're not there just yet. So finding open lanes could become even harder for Gordon in his new home. It's simply impossible to see Gordon enjoying a bounce-back year in the Mile High City. Expect another disappointing season as Elway quickly learns firsthand why you never overpay for running backs in today's NFL. Number 9, Jamie Collins. There's a long list of players who experienced major regression after they left Foxborough. It happened with Jamie Collins once, and it will likely happen again. The versatile athletic linebacker played a pivotal part in helping the New England Patriots win Super Bowl 49. The following season, he earned Pro Bowl and second-team All-Pro honors. Collins was then traded to the Cleveland Browns during the 2016 season, and he later agreed to a 4-year, $50 million contract extension. But Collins downright struggled in his 2.5 seasons with the Browns, and he was released in the 2019 offseason. Collins returned to New England on a 1-year deal, and he tuned in perhaps his best season yet. 7 sacks, 7 passes defended, and 3 interceptions, all career highs. The Detroit Lions gave Collins a 3-year, $30 million contract in free agency, so clearly Matt Patricia, who worked with Collins in New England when he was the team's defensive coordinator, thinks he can get a lot out of this guy. But we're not falling for this again. Collins, like so many other Patriot stars over the years, won't have the same success here in Detroit. He flopped the last time he left the Patriot system. I'm guessing it happens again. Number 8. Patrick Peterson. The 8-time Pro Bowler was suspended for 6 games last season, and when he returned, Peterson just didn't look like his normal self. According to Pro Football Reference, Peterson allowed 65.8 completion percentage when targeted. For the second straight year, he allowed 4 receiving touchdowns. He also earned a lowly 68.6 grade from Pro Football Focus for the 2019 season. Peterson now enters his age 30 season, and we've seen a lot of stud corners regress at this age. Was it just one bad year for Peterson? Maybe, but his 2018 season wasn't jaw-dropping either. We can understand why someone would give Peterson the benefit of the doubt, but the last 2 seasons speak for themselves. He's just not an elite cornerback entering 2020, and unless he turns back the clock, Peterson can't be grouped in the same class as the likes of Richard Sherman and Stephen Gilmore anymore. Number 7, Austin Hooper. After being drafted in the 3rd round of the 2016 draft, Austin Hooper finally broke out in year 3, putting up 71 catches for 660 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2018. Good enough for his first Pro Bowl selection. And in 2019, he was even better, earning his 2nd consecutive Pro Bowl invitation while posting 75 receptions for 787 yards and 6 touchdowns in just 13 games. But just when it seemed like Hooper was on the verge of becoming Matt Ryan's new favorite weapon, the Falcons decided to let him walk in free agency, opting to trade for the Ravens' Hayden Hurst instead. That left Hooper free to sign a 4-year deal with the Cleveland Browns, where he'll now have to compete for tight end targets with 2017 first-round pick David Njoku and 2020 4th-round pick and former John Mackey Award winner Harrison Bryant. He'll also have to deal with a downgrade at quarterback, going from the proven tight end-friendly Matt Ryan to the inconsistent, unpredictable Baker Mayfield. There might be a reason why the Falcons felt the need to move on from Hooper in favor of Hurst. Maybe the former was just a product of the Falcons system. Whatever the case may be, I'm predicting a down season for Hooper in the land. Number 6, Vic Beasley. During the 2020 offseason, the Tennessee Titans traded defensive lineman Jurrell Casey to the Denver Broncos. That left their front seven with a bit of a hole in the pass rushing department, as Casey had accounted for at least 5 sacks every season since 2013, averaging a respectable 6.5 sacks per year over that stretch. Mike Vrabel and company probably figured they could replace that production by signing former Falcons linebacker Vic Beasley, but I don't see it happening, to be honest. For starters, Beasley just has 18 total sacks over the past 3 seasons after recording a league-leading 15.5 in 2016. He also has just 3 forced fumbles over the past 3 years, and his run-stopping abilities pale in comparison to Casey's. On top of all of that, Beasley was a no-show at the start of the Titans training camp, leaving many to wonder whether his head is fully in it entering a 2020 season that promises to be unlike any other. It's not the type of start you want to see from a player on a new team, which is why a down season seems inevitable for Beasley at this point. Number 5, Stefon Diggs. This isn't so much a knock on Stefon Diggs, who's coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. It's just that the move from Minnesota to Buffalo may not be the best fit for the 26-year-old wideout. For starters, over the course of his career, Diggs has averaged 10 less yards per game when playing outdoors as opposed to indoors. He also has 19 touchdowns in 32 career indoor games, compared to just 11 touchdowns in 36 outdoor contests. And, well, it doesn't get any more polarizing than going from the friendly indoor confines of Minnie's US Bank Stadium to the brutal winters of upstate New York. On top of that, Diggs will have to transition from playing with one of the league's better deep ball passers in Kirk Cousins to one of the NFL's worst in Josh Allen. According to Football Outsiders, in 2019, Cousins completed a solid 51.8% of his passes that traveled over 20 yards downfield, while Allen hit on just 33% of his deep ball attempts. That's a pretty significant discrepancy, especially for a receiver like Diggs, who ranks 2nd in the NFL in yards per target and 4th in yards per reception in 2019. Between the change in climate, the downgrade at quarterback, and the lack of time to get familiar with his new team, it's hard to envision Stefon Diggs having a successful first season in Buffalo. Number 4, Julian Edelman. Few have flourished in the New England Patriots system like Julian Edelman has. Since 2013, the former 7th-round pick has averaged 88.3 receptions for 965 yards and 5.3 touchdowns in just under 14 games per season. As the Pats' only reliable pass catcher in 2019, Edelman had a career year, posting 100 catches for 1,117 yards and 6 touchdowns. So why are we predicting such a sudden drop-off in production? Well, as you may or may not have heard by now, Edelman's best buddy, Tom Brady, is in Tampa Bay now. In TB12's place, it'll either be Cam Newton or Jarrett Stidham. It's doubtful that either of these two quarterbacks will be able to replicate the chemistry that Brady had with Edelman, especially without any preseason games or a proper offseason. Brady and Edelman were masters at working the middle of the field on those quick slants, but that's all about timing. I just don't see Newton or Stidham getting that timing down right out of the gate, and the result will be a rather disappointing season from the Patriots star wideout. Number 3, Ryan Kerrigan. The 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker was one of the few positives on a train wreck Washington football team throughout the 2010s. But Kerrigan showed signs of regression in 2019, and there's a major youth movement in the nation's capital. His future in DC appears to be in doubt whether Washington fans like it or not. The team drafted generational pass rusher Chase Young to join a front 7 that also includes young studs Montez Sweat, Daron Payne, and Jonathan Allen. New head coach Ron Rivera and defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio will surely look to build their defense around the new Big Four. Kerrigan is entering his age 32 season, which is old for a linebacker in today's NFL. He also received a woeful 63.1 grade from PFF for the 2019 season. When you factor in his down 2019 season, his age, and the youth movement in DC, it's safe to say that Kerrigan won't return to Pro Bowl form in 2020. His prime years are over. Number 2, Rob Gronkowski. Look, we're all for the return of Gronk, one of the most lovable and entertaining athletes ever. And even Tom Brady haters will tell you that it's great to see him and Gronk reunited outside of New England. But folks, let's calm down here. Too many people are picking the Bucs as their Super Bowl 55 champions. But why? Brady might be able to turn back the clock a bit in his age 43 season, but Gronk? We have to be real here. Gronkowski endured a down 2018 season. The injuries clearly took a toll on him as he was no longer a true game-changing force. he only caught 47 passes for 682 yards and 3 touchdowns. And just by watching the highlights, you could tell that he had lost a step. So is a 1-year retirement suddenly supposed to bring back the old Gronk? We're not buying it. He had to work quickly to pull all that muscle and weight back on. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, Gronk wasn't able to get working with his new teammates right away. There's a whole new offense and playbook to learn with an aging quarterback and no Bill Belichick. It's gonna be awesome having Gronk back in the league because it's Gronk. But please, don't get carried away and think that he'll regain his all-pro form again. He might be a good number 3 or 4 receiving option in Tampa, but he's not going to be elite. Don't overthink this. Number 1. Kirk Cousins. Under new offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski, Cousins enjoyed a brilliant bounce-back year in 2019. He completed 69.1% of his passes for 3,603 yards and 26 touchdowns against only 6 interceptions. And, of course, he led the Minnesota Vikings to a major upset over the New Orleans Saints in the wildcard round. Cousins earned his 2nd career Pro Bowl selection, and many rewarded him with a 2-year, $66 million extension. But it's hard for us to see how Cousins will manage to repeat his success in 2020. And it's not just because he's Mr. Inconsistent. Stefanski left to take on the Cleveland Browns head coaching gig, and stud receiver Stefon Diggs was traded to the Buffalo Bills. So now, Cousins has to move forward without the OC who turned him around, and without arguably his best receiver. Unless Justin Jefferson can produce right away, Cousins will have to mainly rely on Adam Thielen to replace that lost production. Plus, did we mention that Cousins just isn't consistent whatsoever? Add it all up, and we fully expect Cousins to take a step back in his 3rd season as a Viking. What other NFL stars do you think will suck in 2020? Join us in that comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.